Hey guys, it's Red Shadow and welcome back to the channel. This is the next video that I had been thinking about doing here recently. This is probably going to be super scatterbrained because I was thinking about it days ago. As is typical with me, I didn't write anything down. I didn't really notate what I wanted to talk about, so probably I'm not going to really hit points that I was wanting to. But I still want to talk about it because I have opinions about this, and I have opinions about other people who have opinions about this. But as the title should say, this is just a video about me talking about what I think about limited run games, and to a wider extent, any and all limited game companies that produce physical copies of digital games for distribution, around the world. I shop with limited run games a lot. I use Strictly Limited. I use I Am 8-Bit, Fangamer. Those much less of a. They have much less of a selection with those sites than Limited Run and Strictly Limited and Signature Edition and Special Reserve and Red Art Games and Play Asia and First Press. And there's some companies that are specifically and only Switch games, and I'm not. I don't get a lot of Switch games. I've gotten a couple limited run Switch games, and that's been it from any of them for Switch. But there's a lot of companies out there, quite a few that do this same service, and I'm happy for that. I'm happy that there are companies that do this. The basic idea, especially when they started doing this a few years ago, in particular, like I said, limited run, was to put out physical copies of digital-only games. Game preservation, put a game on a disc so that regardless of your connection to the internet, you would be able to play a game, especially one that, didn't get a physical variety in the beginning. Excuse me. And I've always really loved the company. I was kind of vaguely aware of them when Limited Run first started doing this service, but it was a couple of games in before I really stumbled over their website. And even at the beginning, let me just say it up front, I'm not a collector of everything that they put out. I have no desire for a complete limited run game set in general. I don't have any interest in a complete PS4 set because everything I buy from them is PS4 unless it's only on Switch. I only pick the games that I want to play. They're either games that I've been wanting to play but couldn't because they were digital and I didn't have internet. They're old games that have been ported over to the PlayStation 4 and digitally almost always, and then LRG comes in and puts out a physical. Or it's random stuff I've never seen before, and every time a game gets announced for them, I immediately sit down at the computer or on the phone, or sometimes on the PlayStation 4, and I just go to YouTube, search it up, gameplay, let me see what this game is about, let me see what it looks like, let me see the genre, let me see the art style, the graphical style. I hate to shit on a game because it looks weird, or because it has a particular stylized look that I just don't gel with, but I'm going to spend money on this. I'm going to want to play the game. If any of those factors turn me off, then I save my money. And in the beginning, I think game number 10 or 11 was the first one that I got, and it was something like Dragon Fantasy Tome, Legend of the Black Tome, or Tome of the Black Ice, or something like that. That was the first numbered PS4 limited run games release that I ever purchased. Had I known about them sooner and gotten into them, I've always wanted to get Saturday Morning RPG, but that's one of those that now exists on eBay for a highly inflated price. And I want to talk about that here shortly. But eventually, I clued in on this thing that they did, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep checking back with them. They're putting out about 1 to maybe 2 games every month. I was like, this is a good pace. I like it. Maybe in the back of my mind, I was like, there's a bunch of games I could imagine them producing physical copies of, so I wouldn't mind seeing a few more things come out. Fast forward to now, and it's a deluge of games every month. It's too much. It's one of my biggest complaints with limited run games. They're just doing too much. And it wouldn't even matter with COVID. It wouldn't even matter with shipping issues and manufacturing issues. It's just too many games for my poor old wallet, because they offer a lot of stuff that I would want to play. And I have missed a lot of stuff simply because it was just too much. I just didn't have the money at the time. And man, we're talking about games that are only like $30, $35, $40. But when when you're like me and you're working at the time when I have been working, I'm still not making a whole lot of money. There are still tons of regular retail games that come out at $60 a piece. It's a what am I trying to think? It's like not a crapshoot, but it's like a matter of choice. You have to decide. Now I've gotten better about seeing the big $60 retail game and just being like, can I live without this for right now? Can I wait until the price goes down? Almost every game lowers in price in like the first 3 to 6 months. Unless it's Nintendo first party stuff, they ride the shit out of their games. But we're talking like my wheelhouse is PlayStation 4. So, and then you have the gold editions and director's cuts and Game of the Year editions of a lot of those games that come out 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, and they'll be sometimes they'll be cheaper, and they'll have all the DLC and all that kind of stuff included. So yeah, I learned how to pace myself and be patient and wait on the big retail releases. And I spend a lot of my time focusing on these limited game companies because of that. That way I can get all the things that they put out. But also, it's to fight off, something I did a video about before this one, which was just a video about my impressions with selling on eBay. But as a person who's bought on eBay for a lot of years, the last thing I want to do is stumble onto eBay, a few months after a game came out from Limited Run Games, and I'm like, shit, I missed that game, I didn't know about it. This happened to me quite a few times in the first 2 years I was buying from them. I was like, the biggest one was Firewatch. My first digital game purchase on PS4, the first game that I played on my PS4 in February of 2016, because it came out right the same week that I bought my PS4, and I was like, this game looks fantastic. It was my first real experience with a quote-unquote walking simulator. It's a badass game, really cool. Everything on it was well done. And I bought it because I knew it was a digital only release, and in 2016 there wasn't a limited run games. I want to say they were either later that year or 2017 is when they started selling stuff. I wasn't watching them as closely as I should have when I saw the announcement that they were going to do Firewatch for PS4, and I was like, cool, I'll come back and I'll check and see when the date is, and I'll come back for the sale and I'll get one. And I missed one. I either missed the announcement of the date, or I saw the announcement of the date but forgot about it, and I missed the sale of it. Because when they started, they were only doing limited amounts, a specific amount, always limited. We'll have to talk about that here in a bit, but it's always a limited amount of stock that they do. The first few years, it was always like, there'll be 1,000 copies, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, maybe 5,000. And they'll be sold on a Friday at my time, 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. And you got to be there right at that time, get your order in, do your payment, make sure you get the email saying that it's there, and then they'll ship it at a later time. Real quickly, the games don't exist when you pay for them. The order goes in. They put in an order with Sony, back then, like I said, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever. Then they put it up for sale and people buy those things, and then Limited Run goes to Sony and says, okay, we need this many games printed and pressed and created, and Sony makes them. Limited Run Games doesn't make the games. They're not pressing the discs and making the artwork and all that kind of stuff. That's on Sony. The Limited Run Games is just sort of paying for getting the rights to these games, paying Sony to do the manufacturing, receiving the games, paying to ship them out to the people who bought the games. So people order the stuff, they make that order to Sony. The point is, it's usually a few months process between when you pay for it and when you get it. And now it's gotten worse, and it's a couple of the complaints that I had, that they do so much now that I think they're kind of overwhelmed and they can't process it as in the couple of months that it used to take. And you got the pandemic for the last year and a half plus. The pandemic has slowed things down just because manufacturing in general has slowed down. And, there for a while, shipping things were shut down, warehouse space, yada, yada, yada. Things that I don't know and don't understand, so I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I do. I just know that it has lengthened the production time. It has lengthened the amount of time that you have to wait for your games. It's unfortunate, but it happens. But I want people to know that I do realize that, yes, it kind of sucks when things take some time. But the thing that I've always taken on for myself is just like, I want this thing, pay for it, purchase it. All right, cool. I have that. It's going to come to me. I can just forget about it. No stress, no worries. Go about my life, play my games, go to my jobs, do my things. And then a few months later, one day, I go out to the mailbox. What's this? Package. Open it up. It's my game. Sweet. Now, of course, I have an app on my phone from Shopify. They have an app that tracks those orders. So I actually get notifications when something actually gets shipped. And then I can see its progress across the country. And I can be better prepared for when it's going to arrive. But it's still a lengthy process. But that's just the way that is. There's tons of people who come to the Limited Run Collectors Facebook group that I'm on. And they're like, well, I've been waiting for this game for like 5 months. What is going on with this? This is crap. And it's just a flood of the meme of like, oh, your first time, or oh, you're new here. That's just the way that it goes. I don't have a problem with it. Other people want to be upset. I understand. I've got some games. I've had as much as a year's wait on some of the stuff that I've bought. Some of the other limited companies take longer than Limited Run, but they only do like 1 or 2 releases every month. And I kind of miss those days with Limited Run. This is another one of my complaints. Whether I said that before or not, I don't remember. Like I said, this is all off the top of my head and I forget shit. But I miss the days when you'd see something on their blog or on their Twitter page, and it would say, this game is going to be coming soon, stay tuned for the announcement. And then you get another notification, and they're like, this game is going to be out on this day, and it'll be a Friday, like 2 weeks ahead. You have time to plan for it. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to get this. So now I need to make sure that on that day, I'm ready to go. I've had some days where I basically worked from that time. Walmart had a shift of 9 to 6. That's the first sale time and the last sale time. And like I said, if you're not on there right at that time, like if I try to get off at 6 and a customer were to grab me at Walmart, I lose out. So, it was still manageable in my opinion back then. I love that they're putting out all this stuff, and I wouldn't want them to rewind just so that it's easier for me. Releasing a lot of different games means that there's a lot of different people who will get stuff that they want. I don't feel any pain at all for those people who go in every week for every game that's released, and they're just like, buy all of them. Whatever. If you got that kind of money to throw around, I think maybe you should stress out and struggle a little bit, because the rest of us are struggling all the damn time, and we can't just go in every week and just say, because I don't know for how long Limited Run Games has done it, but they've collated like a mega bundle. That's every single thing that they're selling that week. At least game and soundtracks and stuff like that. I don't know. They're starting to do like skateboard decks recently for Shantae and I think some other stuff. They've done, I don't know, so much stuff has been added into their weekly releases now, and they've become a distributor for titles that aren't their games, but some other company that's selling stuff, but now it's on their website, so to help give it a bigger profile. I mean, they are a bigger retailer now for games, so it's probably handy for another company like Wired Productions. I don't remember any of the other ones specifically, but for maybe a company that's not even as big as LRG at this point, they can be like, hey, would you put this on your store page and sell it as a distribution line? And I'm sure LRG gets a cut of that. The nice thing about some of the distributed titles, though, is they may already be produced. So you might buy one of those, and then within like 2 weeks you have it already, and you haven't had to wait the 5 or 6 months. And that's more of a variety of games to come through them too. But like I said, I just feel overwhelmed by what they do. Just in the last month or so, while I've been sitting here without a job and living off of money that I've made from eBay, I've sat here and struggled and stressed over games that they were listing because I want them. And like, yeah, sure, I kind of hate the term FOMO, the fear of missing out, because it's not the fear of missing out. It's the fear of missing a game that I want. It's not just a matter of like, look at all these other people over here buying these things, and look at all these people who are like, hey, check out my stuff that I bought. I show off my stuff on groups and on the website or on the web, on different websites that I'm a part of. But I don't do that to be just like, look at my prize. I'm going to open them, and I open every one of those games pretty much as soon as I get them. Most of the time because the disc has popped out along the way. But I don't have a problem opening them up and depreciating the value. I'm going to put those sons of bitches in my console over here, and I'm going to play them. I didn't buy them to just stick them on a shelf. I'm going to play them at some point. My backlog is huge, and I just add more to it when I get games from there, but they will get played. But I have sit there and struggled and been like, I got to get these games. And the reason why is even a basic, common game, even a game that nobody's heard of, I don't know what that game is, why would I want that, will end up getting bought by somebody who has the $30 to $40 to pay for that. Because I only buy the standard editions. I only have one collector's edition. I haven't received it yet, but I don't do the collector's edition. Too much extra money for a bunch of superfluous junk. In my opinion, I only get the standard editions, but a standard edition game that's selling for $29.99 plus shipping will end up on eBay for $40, $50, $60. And even if the game was only $30 when it came out, if it's a sought-after game for whatever reason, like, say, Firewatch, the last time I really paid any attention to what physical Firewatch PS4 copies were selling for on eBay, they were like $80 to $100 or more. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. But it kills me that that's a game that I love and I want a physical copy. For like the 3 years that I've had my PS4 now for 5 years, for about 3 years of that time I didn't have internet. I could not play Firewatch. You cannot play digitally downloaded games on your PlayStation 4 when you don't have internet. You can play all your disc games just fine, unless they're an online reliant game. But Firewatch is just a single-player walking simulator, badass, awesome experience, and I couldn't play it over all that time. I want to be able to play a game that I really, really enjoy on a disc when I don't have internet, but I don't want to pay $100 for that disc when I could have paid only $30 for it when it was up for sale. I know this is first world problems. This is, gamer collector problems, but still, this is my hobby, this is my thing, and for a lot of my life, this is the only thing that I have, is my games. I don't want to miss out on those experiences, and I don't want to pay out the ass for them. This is what Limited Run Games has switched over now to, an open pre-order for most of the games that they sell, meaning that for a certain period of time, and it's been anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, it's usually a month, or excuse me, not 2 weeks to 6 weeks, but it's usually 4 weeks or a month. You buy that game anytime in there, and whether they sell, 300 copies or they sell 5,000 copies, everybody who wants to get one and gets one during that time gets it. It makes it a little bit easier, but I have still seen open pre-order games after the pre-orders are over get listed on eBay for 2 or 3 times what they were being charged for. Whether or not people were buying them for that matter, for that much, I don't know. But I don't really have the time to sit around and be like, I'll wait and see. If I just look on there and that's what it is, then that's the impression that I get, and then I'm turned off by it. I've tried to get better at writing down the games that I've missed, notating anything that I missed out on, and so maybe somewhere down the road I'll get them for cheap. But prices on games are sort of a weird thing, They start at a certain level at retail, and then they come down. But then if they suddenly are no longer available on retail or whatever, and they're only on eBays and in the secondary markets, and if the game has any kind of interest or whatever, then that price starts to go back up. And I want to get things when they're at a normal area. I don't want to get them way after the fact when they're super expensive just because they're not on the market anymore. It's why I struggled so hard trying to get a copy of Disaster Report 4 because that came out for $60, was very limited. This wasn't a limited run game. It was on Amazon and a few other places, and then it was sold out, and then it was selling for well over $100 on eBay, and I had lucked out getting that copy for basically, it was between $55 and $60 a few months back. But that's an exception. That's not the rule. It's very rare that you end up in a situation like that where you get a legit copy of a game like that for retail or less. So anyway, I don't know if there was anything else I wanted to say. I don't know if I forgot anything, if I mentioned anything earlier in the video I was going to come back to, but my point is, I love Limited Run Games, and I love these other companies. I love what they do, like what they stand for, the idea behind them. I don't necessarily love what feels like them getting in way over their head. I don't necessarily love that some of the things that they do that I feel like is probably justified has pissed off a massive part of the audience of video game collectors and gamers. All the time I'm seeing online, people are just like shitting all over them for stuff. And like, they're people, and I believe that they're trying to do the best that they can. There's bizarre stories of like people trying to jack up the price and trying to steer the price and the value of items that were games that some of the people that worked at Limited Run Games, especially some of the people that founded them, I guess were game developers of their own. And there's a stupid story about a game that people think the person that works there, that it was their game, that they did something shady to try to drive up the price and to sell them in super limited quantities so that people want to spend more money on them, and they try to rope Metal Jesus Rocks into it, and it's just like the most bogus bullshit that I've ever seen. But I try to stay out of the drama of it all. Like I said, I'm just worried about me. I want to get the games that I want, and I want to do it without paying inexorbitant amounts to other people. Now, if other people want to sell them for that and other people buy them for that, that's fine. Because I just sold some games for inexorbitant amounts, but people bought them for that. Thing is, I don't want to pay for games for prices like hundreds of dollars. That's just ridiculous to me. I could go to a store into the budget games section, the $20 games, and let's say a game that I want out there is $160. I can go to the store and buy 8 $20 games for that one game that's $160. Ugh. Some people might say that that's quantity over quality, but it depends on the games. You can get some really awesome games for $20, and I'd rather go that route and hope that somewhere down the road that expensive game comes down. Of course, I say that, and there are those ridiculous games from the PS1 and PS2 eras and the cartridge eras before that are going for thousands of dollars now. So people think that this bubble is going to collapse and come down, and they think it's going to happen soon, and I'm like, nah, some of this stuff has been stupid expensive for years. I don't see it changing anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But right now in my head, it's just like, get it now while you can, before you just get completely scrubbed. Your wallet just, suffers massively. So anyway, I guess that's it. That's my thoughts. I love the limited run games. Companies, I do wish that some of them would slow down a little bit, chill. But, they're businesses, and they got to do what they got to do. I will continue to buy those games basically until they stop selling PS4 games. If I ever get a PS5, Limited Run is already selling PS5 games. But they've already sold some PS5 games that weren't available for PS4 that I would have really loved to have had. But I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to get a PS5. And so I didn't buy them. So I do kind of feel proud of myself for having some discipline in that regard. Alright, so anyway, that's it. See you guys in the next video.